Why are some songs cool while others are cringe? And how can we write better lyrics? We'll be going over the 3 major mistakes that songwriters tend to make, analyzing lyrics from my favorite songs, and sharing practical tips that every songwriter can use so that you can transform your writing into something you're proud of. Let's dive in.
Hey guys, it's Annie. Today I am joined by some of my most amazing friends. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hey y'all, my name is Ameer. I am Annie's partner. You might have seen me in her past videos. I've been a songwriter, producer, musician for a long while now. I've taught songwriting, studied a little bit of songwriting at Berklee College of Music, and I'm just really excited to talk more about writing today.
Hey guys, I'm Lucas. I go by LUKEY, it's my project alias. I'm a producer, singer-songwriter, mix-master engineer. I'm a good friend of Annie and Ameer's. We've all worked on music together, but I've also been hugely involved with a lot of songwriting for people. I've signed to indie labels and major labels as well. And yeah, I'm just super excited to sit down with you guys to talk about songwriting. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so what do you think is the first mistake that songwriters should avoid making?
I think songwriters should first try to avoid being too literal. And what does this mean? Lyrics that state facts or emotions directly without deeper exploration or creative embellishment. They explicitly tell the listener what to think or feel without allowing room for interpretation. Why is it a mistake that songwriters make?
I think when I hear too literal, I think of lyrics and or writing styles that kind of just say what it is. Like you said, there's a fine line between just being like, I miss you, I love you. You know what I mean?
And I like being around you, being with you.
With you, exactly. Like, tonight, dude. Oh my goodness, dude. Yeah,
it's giving recession core.
Recession core to the T, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we continue our thoughts and our opinions, I just wanted to say that we are absolutely not the judge of what good music is or isn't. Art is subjective, and you're allowed to have your own opinions and like whatever it is that you want. You're allowed to write whatever way you want. And we're just here to share what we've personally learned through our own journeys and our own experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Every songwriter has started somewhere, and we've made plenty of these mistakes before, so we're not here to gatekeep what good music is or isn't. Fundamentally, what's most important is that you love what you're writing and what you're putting out. And if you enjoy it, then that's all that matters.
Like what you like.
I think that when you write too literally, it's kind of like tracing a photo, right? It's just copy to copy, and then there's no other interpretation of what this could be. It's like instead of, oh, draw a flower, you're just tracing something that's already been done before. Instead of imagining what this could mean to you, what could this look like to you? And
I think it fundamentally comes down to like this storytelling rule, especially from the world of film: show, don't tell. And I think in music that tends to be too literal. For example, saying, it was raining, then I felt sad, you left me all alone, now I don't know where to go. Like that kind of stuff, like super literal, super straightforward. It doesn't leave any room for interpretation. You're telling the listener exactly what it is, as opposed to creating a feeling and a vibe for them to live within.
100%.
I'm sure you guys know Bruno Mars, the song It Will Rain, right? Yes. Amazing bop. I always think about this when it comes to literal writing. Like he's just talking about how his partner, if this girl were to leave, and he's going to be sad, but he doesn't state that he's going to be sad. And just like the clouds, my eyes will do the same. And just trusting that the listener, the audience understands what that means. Every day it will rain. What does that mean? He's going to cry, he's going to be sad, but he's not going to tell you straight up. It's for you to figure that out, right? And like watching a movie, the narrator doesn't have to hold your hand and walk you through what's happening. Like, this is life. We are experiencing it right now. Let's experience it together.
Exactly.
What are some examples, do you think, of being too literal with your writing? Do you have any lines that you can think of that are, that fall into this camp?
I'm going to use myself as an example. One of the first songs I've written back in like 2013, I was in high school as a junior. It was on the ukulele. The first lyrics of my own song were, it's a Sunday afternoon and I'm in the mood. Can we go somewhere? I don't mean to be rude. Exactly. Oh, we clipped. Jokes aside, like I remember being proud of that at the time. But now I think about it in retrospect, like that in itself, that writing style, while it's cute and like has a place, it's very to the point, and again, doesn't leave room for interpretation. We start off by referencing stuff that we grew up with, right? Going from there, it's like diversifying what you listen to from that point forward to really upend your storytelling.
And I think this comes down to the concept of expanding one's palette and expanding one's sonic vocabulary, which we'll get into strategies more later, right? But I think it's really important to, be surrounding yourself with more really great writing and broadening your definition of what that might be.
And I think sometimes when you listen to music and you enjoy something, you're not thinking about lyrics all the time. And that's okay. But I think it's like when a songwriter wants to expand on their knowledge and their skill, it's like you really got to listen to these lyrics and you got to really like consider, you know, what your style is and what you want to imitate, what you want to what do you want to improve on for yourself?
And I think an important note to make here is that when it comes to being literal, we're not saying that being literal is a bad thing. We're saying too literal, because there's a time and place for everything. Like if I think about the song All My Ghosts by Lizzie McAlpine, she opens with the most literal verse in the history of literal verses, right? So the first line of All My Ghosts are, you got a Slippery for free, I caught you looking at me in the 7-Eleven under fluorescent lights. Like every single thing is laid out. But then you go to the chorus. She says, all my ghosts are with me. I know you feel them too.
Right.
That is, obviously that has multiple layers of meaning. Beneath that can be unpacked. But I think because there's this counterbalance of super literal in the verse, but then abstract and creating a feeling or creating something poetic in the chorus, it works.
Right, there's a place for it. It's not like don't be literal at all. It's like find a balance on that. And maybe in finding the balance, that is your own specific taste.
Absolutely.
Right, that's your voicing.
And I fundamentally think that the problem with like being too literal is that it doesn't create any mystery and it doesn't leave space for the audience to wonder. I came across this really good quote actually in the book, Your Music and People by Derek Sivers, who's the founder of CD Baby. And he said this really great quote. Do you remember when you first started listening to music? It was also mysterious as you wondered what those lyrics meant or how they made those sounds. Try to create that feeling for your audience. Don't be so plain or obvious that there's nothing left to wonder, but don't be so cryptic that they give up. Give just enough to make them curious. Let them search for clues, for explanations and context. Maybe due to social media, artists are less mysterious than ever. It's kind of sad to have everything so transparent. Once something is explained, it stops captivating your curiosity.
Right.
Agreed. Agreed. I think that's why a lot of artists nowadays will not give in to telling their audience what the song is about. Because I'll say a lot of TikTok, I don't know, behind the scenes, like breaking down the meaning of the song, like people will go in to say like, POV, this is when I did this and that. Or I wrote a song about when my boyfriend broke up with me and we had a fight in the car and here's what I said.
Right. Oh, I got one. It's like, oh, if you're going through a random breakup or a really, really crazy unrequited love, this song's for you, and just stuff like that.
If you ever sat on the back of your truck in a field, this song's for you. Sitting on the back of the truck in a field.
I feel like it's great for the algorithm, but ultimately, like if you see the way like Billie Eilish or Phineas in their interviews, like how they go about it, they'll be like,
I really wanted the songs to not be like, oh, I know what that's about. It's just, we live in a world of like, you put a song, somebody puts a song out and everyone's like, so this is who this is about. And this is the entire story of what happened. And it's like, doesn't even give the listener a chance to interpret it how they want to interpret it and how they naturally hear it.
So what do you guys think is the second mistake that songwriters should avoid making?
I think the second mistake is being too predictable.
Right.
So, what do we mean by too predictable? Well, let me get my notes. Too predictable refers to lyrics that rely on expressions and musical patterns that are easily anticipated or lack originality or surprise. This includes cliches, obvious rhymes, and predictable cadences that follow conventional structures without variation or creativity. For example, with you, or tonight.
Oh, I got one. Crazy, maybe, baby. No, like for real though, like I think there is, again, time and place for that, but I feel like it's a recycled and trite trope and cliche that unfortunately plagues a lot of people's like ability to convey a certain lyric or feeling. You know, there's ways to utilize those rhyme schemes and whatever in a way that, you know, it is artistically to a prestige of this sort, but like if it is becoming like predictable in the sense that like you can probably guess what the next rhyme scheme is, I feel like there's a bit of like workshopping that should be done there. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think the issue with that is that when you can start predicting the rhymes, you're starting to think about the song as a song as opposed to getting immersed and lost in it. You're thinking about, oh, this rhyme is about to come next, except instead of that, like instead of focusing on the actual story or the actual vibe, you know what I mean?
You're more so just playing a game with yourself. I feel like that's what we do.
That's what we
We're
do
like
in the car
sit
a
in the
lot.
car and like if we come across a new song,
I feel
and
that.
it's a little bit too predictable, we'll be like, betcha the next word is gonna be
Right.
It's kind of like you're reading a mystery novel and you know that it's supposed to be a mystery novel because this is your first time ever coming across this, but you've already predicted the ending by like the first chapter.
Yeah, and I believe like while this is no shade to anyone who uses this. I mean, I'm guilty of this same thing, especially
We've all
Yeah.
done
when
this.
it comes to creating a vibe and just workshopping ideas in a session, right? Ultimately, if you yourself and your aim is to be a really good songwriter, you will probably need to like diversify again, like your listening palette. We're living in a day and age where genre is becoming less constricting and it's blurs everywhere because we are able to take influences that might not even like go together, you would think at first. But then when you really give it a chance and like maybe blend like country twang with the R&B voicings and melodies that you might find like in a Boys II Men song, but then you mix that with production that's like more folk, Cabin in the Woods, Bon Iver type, it opens the doors for a lot of things. It's not just writing too, it's also just like the sonic bed that goes behind the lyrics that also can influence how predictable a song could be, right?
Yeah, like I was thinking about this with Sabrina Carpenter. Like she has that country twang to it, but would you put her under like country pop? You wouldn't. It's just pop. It's just whatever's popular, right? And you don't have to stay restricted in what's popular in pop. You can bring other elements of different genres that inspire you or what you were raised on. I feel like that was a core to her being and her identity. Like she'll put that into her music.
And I think another element of being too predictable are chord patterns and cadences that are super predictable. And I will show you an example.
Oh no.
You got the guitar out here.
We have our trusty guitar right here. And there's a specific chord progression at 85 BPM. When you hear it with this specific picking pattern, you just know where it's going.
Yep. 1. 6. Yep.
Right when I saw you over there, I didn't know that you care. And I don't know where to go.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, ready. Looking at my baby makes me so damn crazy. One initial maybe. Come with me to love me
Tonight.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a soft spot for stuff like that. I mean, I grew up with a lot of music that was very much influenced in the style. And this is no direct shot towards anybody, but like I really just implore people when they want to take this seriously to like go out and listen to different things, like new things. Like if you like an artist, right? Listen to their influences. Listen to what they were influenced by, because then you're getting more of like an accurate route and through line of where that person might have been influenced. And that allows you to also diversify your listening palette. So for example, if I'm listening to Tyler Creator, Tyler is very vocal about like chords and stuff, but then he always cites Pharrell, which is definitely one of his biggest collaborators and like friends now. Like Pharrell then was influenced by a Tribe Called Quest. The lead vocalist of that group is Q-Tip, right? So Q-Tip, the abstract, and that through line of where each thing came from is always important, especially when it comes to like understanding songwriting and like kind of diving deeper into your artistry, right?
I think like, with the music that is, popular right now, right? I think we're also limited almost to the algorithm, right? So how do you get yourself out of that bubble? How do you fight it? It's like you got to know the exact search keywords or know who to look up, right? And maybe that's an easy way to, kind of expand your web.
Yeah, there's a whole Pandora's box of conversations that this can branch from, but I think obviously now in the post TikTok, post Instagram Reel algorithm world where a lot of the music we consume, we probably only like know 10 seconds of some of these songs that blow up and stuff like that. I think really putting in the effort to like looking up stuff that interests you opens a door for like discovery of so many things.
Lastly, what do you guys think is the third mistake that songwriters tend to make?
I think it's, and this is gonna probably piss a lot of people off, but lack of depth. And I know that's a very vague way to illustrate the third mistake, but for us, I think it refers to lyrics that present emotions or ideas in a one-dimensional way that doesn't go beyond exploring the complexities, contradictions, and layers of that said feeling, you know what I mean? And because of that, by virtue, they don't have insight, and because it's so surface level, it's giving them this emotion without like further reflection of what that actually looks like.
And I think the fundamental thing when it comes to a lack of depth is that it presents emotions as one-dimensional, two-dimensional, without exploring like the contradictions that make those emotions so compelling. Exactly, right? And so fundamentally what it sounds like is that you're more so reacting to the emotion as opposed to reflecting on it. Right. So an example of this for me that comes to mind is the song Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo. I think it's a great song, right? Banger, right? Has that F-U energy, but then in the bridge, she's like, maybe I am too emotional, but your apathy's like a wound in salt. Am I crazy? Maybe I shouldn't miss him. Do I miss him because I'm over him, or do I miss him because I'm sad? I'm doing well. No, I'm not doing well. He's doing so well. I'm jealous. And there's all this contradiction and complexity when you take an emotion like anger. Why do I feel angry? Should I feel angry? And it's this multi-layered experience as opposed to just saying, screw you, screw you, screw you, you're horrible, you're horrible, you're horrible.
And I think the reality of experiences is that you're feeling multiple emotions at once. And I feel like sometimes when we're writing a love song, perhaps it just goes, oh, it's love all the way through. We like explore other things that we may feel about this person even in the love song itself. So like, let's say like if we are exploring the emotion of grief, goddamn, like you're at a funeral, there's a lot of perhaps resentment, there's love, there's sadness, there's anger, there's so much going on. And the reality is sometimes when you look back at an event, you have new thoughts, new ways of thinking about things. And so it's the reflection, right? Instead of the reaction, the current reaction.
You need a lot of like that nuance to convey a very human feeling. At the end of the day, like when it comes to storytelling and illustrating these feelings in these songs, we want to represent the most pure and raw form of emotion that is reflective of our journey. It takes a specific amount of self-awareness. It's, oh, I'm feeling down, but I'm grateful that this happened, but I'm also conflicted because there is this feeling, but it leads me back to here. You know what I mean?
It's an emotional journey is what it is. The other day you were talking about this one Frank Ocean song, I think it was Godspeed.
Yes.
Or something. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Whenever someone just mentions Godspeed, you're kind of like in this other realm. It's a feeling. It's not even like I think, oh yeah, it was so catchy. No, it's an experience.
Right. So can we all agree that that song is like an I miss you type of song maybe? Or like something along that lines?
But I think the cool thing is that it's up to interpretation.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You can interpret it however you want.
Exactly. So to my point, so when he says in that song, see, I'll always be there for you how I do. I'll let go of my claim on you. There is such a rich narrative of this protagonist looking at a past lover or past something else. It doesn't have to be love. It could be a memory. It could be a moment, or maybe a version of who that person was before. Yeah, you know what I mean?
A past version.
Yeah.
A younger self.
Exactly. And it's like you are sending them off, wishing them safe travels. It doesn't remove or negate any of the valid feelings that came with that said lover, version of yourself, emotion, memory. You are letting go, but also having gratitude for that. You know what I mean? Not to mention the incredible production, chords via James Blake in that song, Kim Burrell's background vocals. It's all that. You can hear the raw emotion within how he also melody choice wise, how he croons over that song. So as long as you dive deep into it, it makes you really appreciate like where that came from. That's a lot of life experience in one song.
Yeah.
You know
Speaking of experience, I wanted to bounce off of that. I think sometimes the depth, right, you mentioned earlier, comes from self-awareness, comes from knowing yourself. I find that if my own lyrics, like, because I will write lyrics that are very shallow, and like when I started off, I didn't have that much experience writing and also in life. You know, you'll figure it out. Like you'll live that life experience and you'll know what to say when the time is right.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just like maturity. Growing up and looking back at your younger self, like the things that you would do now differently. I think you can apply that to writing.
Absolutely.
And I think you bring up something really important with the song Godspeed. And even if I were to look at other songs that are really well written, there's multiplicity of meaning. Like what I'd like to call this is you can discuss it in an English class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why are the curtains blue?
Yeah.
That's so deep, man.
Right?
Why are they blue?
Right?
Yeah.
It makes me appreciate what English and literature taught me, which is to really read in between the lines. You know what I mean?
I'd say like not all genres need to be deep.
Definitely not.
I think it's just what
no.
you're going for or like what your intent is. I feel like if your intention is to deliver a deep message, then does that deliver? Or how are you deliver? Yeah, how does it translate? Exactly. I recently saw an interview from Phineas. This was like the one that was promoting his latest album. He talked about how sometimes he adds humor into his writing to make it sound deeper.
If you can be a little funny, the sincere dark parts are darker and more sincere. It's disarming. If somebody takes themselves so seriously all the time, it starts to like flatten out. You know what I mean? It's not as dynamic. And if you say a joke and then you say a thing that's devastating, I think it's more arresting. So
this day and age now, right, where like there's so much music being pumped out. I think a takeaway that I just want to leave people with is with music, just be yourself. And just, you know, if being yourself requires you to kind of start like, I guess where it might be looked at as cringe, that's okay. As long as you allow yourself to be open and continue building from there, then you will only have success. You know what I mean? I think no matter what the opinion of like maybe your best friends are for your art or the people that you look up to, idols, right? As long as it feels genuine to you, I think at the end of the day, that is what will lead you to a very good story.
We have a lot to improve on always. Just in any craft, you're gonna always have things to learn and to improve on. But approaching it in that genuine way, like as long as you're enjoying yourself, you're gonna want to improve. I think you'll improve naturally, even like without seeking it. Or like if you do seek it, I think it's the self-awareness bit. Like where are you in your journey and where is your skill set? And if you're enjoying the process at least and you love the craft for what it is, like you don't mind being, you know, beginner state or like that cringe for a bit, right? Because it's just part of the process.
Exactly.
All right, so we've laid out the 3 mistakes that I think we should avoid. Let's get practical. What are some tips and how can we actually avoid these mistakes?
I'd say as for just like tips for writing, going back to the first mistake, which is too literal, I think if a line starts with the words I feel, which is leading to you're just going to tell someone how you directly feel and tell them your emotion, go into an action, a verb, describing your senses. So your smell, your sight, like tell them what you see, tell them what is going on in the situation. What is it that you hear? Oh, there are cars going by, the light is green, my feet is on the pedal. It's like you're okay, you're on the road. Build your cinematic universe.
Yeah, right. I think even more literally, like if you take a piece of paper and you actually write out the emotion. So let's start with I miss her.
Okay.
Come back. No, I'm kidding. But what does that look like? Draw a diagram and like bubbles that branch out to what that looks like. How did it feel? What were you wearing? What music was she listening to at the time? What year was it? What was happening around that time in your life? You know what I mean? I think vulnerability and like being able to allow yourself to tell nuanced details without obviously oversharing, but like that is always what draws me into as a listener. I think I may have said it again and before, but my personal advice for people who aspire to, you know, be better songwriters is to go out of your way to get out of your comfort zone. If you consume more forms of art, I feel like it naturally, by virtue, informs your art too in a way that like allows you to look at things differently. It's important for people to really explore and be more curious about their music taste because it might unlock something new for you that you otherwise wouldn't have felt before. And so as long as you're fans of music, like that is what allows you to be more appreciative and be more curious and be more explorative of how you write.
Right, like be that first.
And I think another tip that I have is to leave space. Try to remove anything that's too directly descriptive that can like basically directly identify it straight up to you. There's a time for specificity and there's also a time for being vague. And I think it's important to find that middle ground and balancing those two. Totally. So if you have a section, perhaps that is really, really literal, try to balance it out with something that is a little bit more vague, a little bit more up for interpretation. And of course, this is all stuff that I'm still trying to get better at. I literally wrote a verse that said, pancakes for dinner, shorts in the winter, losing my balance when I try to kiss her. Banger! Right?
All love.
All love, right? I'll say, I think that the verse that I wrote was cringe, but I think it's the self-awareness there and, you know, continuing to improve is what's important, right?
Yep, exactly.
Or if we were to talk about like my song that I took down on Spotify, Distracted. You remember Distracted?
Let's expose ourselves. Annie Lore.
Annie Lore. If you guys have been around that long, you guys remember that? Damn.
Share some lyrics.
But literally the first line is like, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to see your phone.
Ooh.
Blowing up on the weekend when I'm with you. Ooh. So I'm ending with the with you, and I'm starting the line telling them how I feel.
Right.
It's very like dead on the nose, but I would write the song so differently now, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's like, wow, we've grown, and it's good to cringe at yourself when it comes to this stuff. So I think one tip that could be very helpful for someone, especially for when they're writing something in the moment, it's something that they're experiencing right now, it's hard to be reflective. You can try writing as someone who's in a different perspective than you. So let's say it's, well, a breakup song, right? You are the person that's hurt. You can talk about, I feel so upset and sad. You can put yourself in the perspective of someone on the other end, right? The person who's moving on, the person who's experiencing this in a whole different way. And this could bring so much insight into your own writing.
That's such a good tip. I think that's a really good tip. What else you got for us, Coach?
Put me in, Coach.
Put me in, Coach.
Something very practical is unconventional rhyming, right? We talked about the predictability bit where, you know, we're rhyming maybe with baby, with crazy. What about we do near rhymes or unconventional stuff? Changing vowels, the way you say a word just to make it rhyme. I think when I hear an artist rhyme a word that wouldn't normally rhyme with another word, I'm like, how did they get that to rhyme? Or how did they even think of that? I feel like even just like thinking about how they delivered it, I'm like, that's genius.
The fact that Eminem rhymed orange with syringe.
Syringe?
Yeah. He found a rhyme for orange.
Yes.
I think it's the craziest thing ever.
He kind of cooked, low-key.
How do you say it?
He said oranges, syringes. Right?
Yeah,
But that's
shout
crazy.
out the rap god himself.
Amazing.
Amazing, for real.
Amazing. Or like adding contrast, talking about different feelings at once to build tension, right? And release. You can also write things in a different order. Like instead of starting from chronological order from beginning to end, maybe go backwards and explore things in a different timeline.
Non-linear storytelling.
Christopher Nolan, baby.
Plot twists are one of my favorite ways to make a song sound so much cooler than it is. Like, for example, in Feelings, Lizzie McAlpine talks about feeling this amazing experience with this lover through the verse, through the chorus and everything. And in the bridge, it's like, you don't exist and it's over. I'm like, wait, I thought we were literally just experiencing this, right? It's just the plot twist and the kind of like the release, the crescendo that we're all kind of like waiting for. And then it ends. We're like, whoa. That just happened.
There's I forgot the song title, but it's a Kendrick Lamar song. I think it's Dying of Thirst, but it's like a Slash song where it has a part 2. In the song, he is writing about a character in the female perspective that he grew up with, and like the way he's rapping, he's like, it's very obviously explicit, but like the language and the words that he's using are definitely not from a man's perspective, and it's really neat to like kind of see that and like illustrate that in a different perspective that is not his own. You know what I mean?
I think writing in character is such a powerful tip because then it takes you out of your own direct experience and then you can start crafting this fictional universe. Because I'm going to say, to be honest, I don't have that much to draw on for my life when it comes to songs because my life is very boring. Like all I do is like stay at home and like make videos and stuff. But I think stepping into character can be so cool because then you're building lore, you're building a world, right? You're building the Space Boy story and everything.
Yeah, no, totally.
And when you are this character, anything is up for grabs. Anything is possible.
Even in performances, like when you're on stage, for me at least, it's an exaggerated version of me being a character, like being LUKEY, not Lucas, but LUKEY. And that allows me to kind of liberate myself from like a very contained way.
Yeah, it's very freeing. Like no one's gonna think twice about what you have to say. It's like you're allowed to, you have the permission to be whoever you want, say whatever you want.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the mistakes. Why don't we focus on some really good writing?
Right, okay, what do we have?
We have some lyrics. Let's go through a few of them. Let's start with a song by Dijon. Ooh. This is Skin by Dijon.
Classic.
You're dressing like a Sunday morning, and your eyes look like little islands in the light. Hazel and light green on white sheets.
Her eyes are like little islands in the light.
The way he sings that too, I definitely had to look up the lyrics when I was listening to it because the vibe was obviously great. But like, yes, it's absolutely great songwriting, and it's very, very descriptive and beautiful how he lays this out. But it's also how he delivers it and the vibe and the aesthetic of the song behind sonically,
exactly.
You know?
There's this one quote that comes to mind from John Mayer. I don't know if I have this word for word, but when the music matches the lyrics and the lyrics match the artist.
When the music sounds like the lyrics and the music and lyrics together sound like the idea and the music and the lyrics and the idea sound like the singer, then you got a song.
Right? It's this entire thing. That's when you have a song. That's when you have a hit, right? Like
Yes.
it's believable.
And you're convinced, and you're now immersed into the psyche of this person. You know what I mean?
You forget that it's a song. You're transported into the experience. And it's like watching a really good movie. The borders of the screen completely engulf you, and you're not thinking that it's a film. And so then the problem is when it's too predictable or literal, you're thinking about the song, you're thinking about the frame. Oh, this is a song, as opposed to this is a lived experience. This is a time capsule that I'm stepping myself into and that I'm immersing myself in.
All right, so what else we got here? So we have, all right, I'm going to say the lyrics real quick, okay? And I'll leave it up to the listeners who this is, okay? How much of my mother has my mother left in me? How much of my love will be insane to some degree? And what about this feeling that I'm never good enough? Will it wash out in the water, or is it always in the blood? And that is In the Blood by John Mayer. Just the first stanza. Dude, it's absolutely gut-wrenchingly, heartbreakingly honest. It is the breakdown of like what it means to be carrying the past. Am I a reflection of my mommy and my daddy or something? You know what I mean?
Am I just like them?
Am I just like them? Am I still capable of falling in love again? But like he breaks it down. It's all questions, which that's honestly, and that relates to a tip that we might not have talked about, but questions are always great for songwriting. I feel like in a way like that allows the listener to have their own questions about even their own experience. You know what I mean?
Like when you ask a question, they can answer it themselves.
Yep.
Right? This could be a question that they have, and to see that someone else is figuring this out too, and it's not just a listener, it's like this person who has crafted this song, this must have meant something.
And I think this entire thing of asking questions is a really, really useful tip for the entire lacking depth or being too literal thing. I think instead of answering what questions, ask why questions. I feel kind of worried that I'm going to be like my parents. Should I feel this way? Will it ever go away? Or is it always in the blood? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so another song that I absolutely love is White Teeth by Ryan Beatty. And this is a great example of letting it be open to interpretation. I'm not your brother. I can't take care of you. I've purchased furniture in place of you. I'd have you over. Jenny's in the other room, but she'll be leaving in the afternoon. Like, we're just painting this picture. He goes into the chorus. Old summer rain, some lefts, some rights, so strange. In the porch light, handprint on the window pane, like white teeth to a red wine stain.
Jeez. I love Ryan Beatty.
I know, like, you know, wine stains you, right? White teeth to a red wine stain. It's something that's hard to get rid of. It's hard to remove. Handprint on a window pane. The sacredness that you want to keep to yourself. This is probably a very precious moment to him, or whoever it is. Like, he's name dropping this person and that person and mentioning these memories, but like, you know, he's not going to tell you why these things meant a lot to him. Right. It's just, no, this is mine for me to keep. And like, you can get a little fragment and look into it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think a song that does that kind of similar thing really well is Pink and White by Frank Ocean. Right? It's like there's these specific things coming in and out. It's like these references and pieces of his memories and childhood and like life back then.
Tall time or a milk crate.
Right?
It's the same way. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It feels like you're living in the memory. Yeah. That's what it is. And I think great songwriting doesn't just tell you what to feel. It creates that feeling so that you can step into it.
I think like obscure references is a great way to challenge the predictability of a song, right? Like, for example, like the feeling of, you know, all giddy and excitement. You can say like, oh, butterflies in my stomach. Yeah. Okay, well, you know, it's all been said before. It's very common. It's a thing that we've heard. It's something that we've all experienced. Yes, but like let's figure out another example. I think all of our experiences are unique, and our lyrics can be too. That was a lot. Thank you guys for joining me on this discussion, this chat. Like, I've always wanted to talk about this with you guys. I feel like we have these in and out all the time, but to finally sit down and discuss these things, and it's so solid. Thank you for joining me. So I hope you guys took something for this and that you guys can apply it to your own writing. And if you guys want to learn more about songwriting and improve on your writing, you can check out these videos right here. See you in the next one. Bye.
See ya.